Okay, Justin, Ben Frederick here, State Representative, and I want to thank everybody that's joined the call. Many of you are aware that Justin, in his capacity as President and CEO of the Shiawassee Economic Development Partnership, has been doing these calls daily with Shiawassee area business owners. I was delighted to have him make this available to me, not just for Shiawassee County, but actually for business owners across the 85th House District. And we do have participants from the greater Chesapeake area, Hemlock, and Merrill in rural Saginaw County, so I want to welcome them. We also have a great opportunity today to speak with individuals in both MEDC and the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, with 3 guests in all. And the goal of the call is to provide an update on different supports that are in process or coming. Obviously, we've had different news each day, some disappointments on some of the administration, some of the federal programs or federal monetary availability. But there's some other things that are coming about or things in process. And I know there's also some questions out there about the UIA process and navigating that, particularly for the self-employed 1099 small business owner population. So we're going to start with introducing each of our guests and having them go over different things they wish to share, and then we're going to begin a Q&A section. As Justin mentioned at the beginning, this call is going to be recorded, and there will be audio that will be available to you for reference later on. And of course, my office is available to be in touch with any of these individuals after the call. Should the question not we don't have time to be addressed, if we get to our conclusion time of 10 o'clock, or if you otherwise have information you'd like to share with my office. So with that, I want to introduce our first guest from MEDC, Tyler DeBradbander, who is the Business Development Manager for our greater region here, Ingham, Eaton, Clinton, and Shiawassee. Welcome, Tyler.
Thanks. I always forget the *6 to get in here, but I appreciate it. I've been on here a few times and try to give updates on our programs as requested by Justin, and I mean he really does a fantastic job of translating everything that's happening at the state level, at the federal level, and bringing it to you guys and making you aware of opportunities that are out there for your companies. A couple of high-level things I wanted to discuss today, and then obviously if we have some time for questions later, happy to go into more detail. But just so you know, as things come online, we will, of course, be keeping you all updated and plugging you into applicable programs that can help you guys. First is our PMBC, Pure Michigan Business Connect virtual procurement platform. And this is something that operates, during normal times in the manufacturing and services space, just connecting Michigan businesses with other Michigan businesses for B2B matchmaking opportunities. But they've really zoned in on what is going on with this current crisis, connecting companies with capabilities to produce, high demand COVID-19 related medical equipment with the health systems and the smaller providers that are, really that need this on a daily basis. So I know a few of our companies in Shiawassee are registered on this platform and are engaged in producing this equipment, but we're asking manufacturers to take a look at what you might be able to easily convert to and produce in the near term. And if you have any ideas like that, we would love to speak with you and get you plugged into the right opportunities in that space. And kind of in conjunction with that, our access to capital programs. We've seen this work successfully a couple of times so far, where you have an opportunity to, with some injected capital, really increase your production capabilities, and companies haven't been able to get over the hump with their private lender alone. We can partner with that lender and increase the amounts that might be available on a loan and take the second tier on that loan to boost your near-term spending power, and that's something we can get turned around very quickly. We've also just been, reacting to what the needs are out there and trying to be creative with the funds that we have available and create new grant programs on a regular basis. And these are things that we've been sharing with you guys as they come on. The common theme is, we're looking for ways that we can get capital out and activated and respond to this crisis as soon as possible. So, quick turnaround on activation of these projects is key, and we will, of course, keep you updated as new opportunities are available. So that's really what I wanted to share this morning, and obviously, if we have any questions at the end, happy to fill in any of the gaps there.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that, Tyler. Next, we do have also from the MEDC, Chuck Donaldson is joining us, the Community Assistance Team Specialist for Region 6. If you could give an overview as well, Chuck. Thank you for being with us. Chuck, if you're with us, could you press *6 to unmute?
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
It was. I think I was talking for a minute. Sorry about that. Again, Chuck Donaldson, part of the community assistance team. I do work hand in hand with Tyler in regard to our programs, kind of due to the shifting nature of everything, and also some of these programs coming online pretty weekly. I am encouraging folks to go to our website. You can either go to michiganbusiness.org, or you can also check out our community development website at miplace.org. Both website landing pages will get you to our COVID-19 relief efforts. For the most part, community development, we're working with our communities, really trying to address their needs during this. Some of the programs that we have brought online is some of our funding was utilized as part of our initial efforts with the Small Business Relief Program. In addition, there was also a recent announcement, not out of community development, but out of our Arts and Cultural Council for a new emergency relief grant. Looks like applications for those are due May 1st. So if there are any arts or cultural institutions on the line, they could check out the website for more information on that program. And then I think the latest thing that was, again, just recently adopted was for some of our current developers and folks that we were working with and had already awarded grants and loans to, there is a new relief program, similar to kind of the mortgage and lending institutions. If you had a loan with the state for a development project, now you're not able to meet your loan deadlines or your milestones. We do have an application process which we can review those and take a look and see if there's a way of restructuring that. And so, again, I think for the most part, our efforts are focused on the initial responses. I think that as we come out of these initial responses, when we're trying to grow and reestablish our downtowns, that's where we're going to be working closely with our communities to make sure that we kind of get that right. And again, I'm also available to answer any additional questions, and my contact information is available on our website.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. I appreciate that, and taking some notes on some of these because even as a legislator, the programs and the innovations are changing every day, and it's nice to hear about some of these emerging ones. And we'll certainly have availability for reaching us and trying to facilitate these things for anybody on the call. My final guest is Todd Cook. He's legislative liaison for the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity. So as individuals like those on the call were to call my office with anything involving that department, he's the person that really is my go-to as a legislator for these. And I know his time is filled with a lot, and I appreciate him extending this courtesy. So Todd, thank you for joining us. If you could just give a brief overview also.
Sure. No, I appreciate that, Representative Frederick, and just I'm sure folks on the phone already know this, but just I can't say how much Rep. Frederick and his staff, what a great job they do, and are advocates for all of the 85th, but also in particular, small business across Shiawassee and parts of Saginaw County. So we appreciate that relationship, and he's a very good representative. I'll leave it at that. So really the big thing that obviously we work on these days or are focused on is the unemployment insurance. The official numbers released last week had the state of Michigan at over 1 million claims. The official numbers will be released tomorrow morning, and while we're not quite seeing the record-breaking numbers we were, the pace has still been pretty significant, as you would imagine. The big thing that we've been able to do ahead of other states and then the Great Lakes region is what Representative Frederick addressed earlier in terms of under the Federal CARES Act, expand eligibility for unemployment insurance benefits to 1099, self-employed, maybe people who have a short work history, folks who otherwise wouldn't have been eligible under normal circumstances for unemployment relief. And so on the 13th, we were starting to take applications for folks as a part of that. Part of that process is there's a wage verification. We've gotten some questions about that. The wage verification there is to ensure that you get the maximum benefit you're allowed under the Federal CARES Act. And so what happens is there's a state benefit which maxes out at $362 a week. Prior to the COVID outbreak, the average around the state was $325. And then there's an additional $600 a week federal benefit that started on March 28th. And so, like I said, folks who were earlier would have been ineligible or who may have been denied unemployment benefits because they were 1099 or self-employed, or their work history wasn't long enough for them to get benefits under the regular system. What's called PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, is allows them to get benefits. And with the wage verification, that's something that the federal government requires of us to enable us to give out the maximum benefit people are entitled to. We know that a lot of small business folks don't have their taxes yet, or because of how the transition happened with the emergency, may not have all of their paperwork available. And so if you're unable to load up your wage verification, the guidance from the federal government is we are able to pay out a minimum amount, which is half of the state average, which is $160 a week plus the $600. And so if you don't have wage verification immediately available, that would be the benefit you would get. And at the time you're able to load in additional information, we'd be able to go back in and reconcile your account and get you those additional funds. So we're encouraging folks to use the PUA system. As of last week, we had about 300,000 people around the state who are involved in that, who are getting some benefits. We're starting to pay on those benefits starting this week, and so people will see that. I know for small business owners, and it's a different process and something they're not usually involved with. But we know this is something that can be helpful and meaningful for folks in terms of, working through the current situation we're in. The other item that you're going to be hearing more about in the coming days is the WorkShare program. WorkShare is an existing program that you'll be hearing about more flexibilities with in the coming days. But WorkShare allows employers to bring back employees on a reduced schedule. Those employees, once you file your WorkShare plan, those employees are entitled to get a portion of their unemployment benefits according to the plan. So if you brought people back and on a reduced schedule, so their hours were reduced 40%. Under a WorkShare plan, they're able to make their regular salary with you for the other 60% of their time, and then for the 40% that you're not able to use them, they're able to get their benefits, so 40% of whatever they would have gotten. And so it just allows businesses a little more flexibility, and we know as we move more towards reopening that there's probably going to be a lot of uncertainty, and we want to be able to provide businesses with as much flexibility as we can to keep people employed, to keep their businesses afloat, and then also be able to provide some relief to individual employees. So those are the kind of the two big things that have been coming on. Obviously, we're seeing a huge influx of applications. We're about 4 times as much as we saw during the 07-08 turndown at our highest point. And again, we're just working through, and the governor and Director Donofrio has made it very clear publicly on several occasions that everyone who is entitled to benefits will receive them, and we'll work through that. And I think I'll be happy to answer any questions about unemployment or WorkShare as we go forward. So thanks, Representative.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. I appreciate those comments a great deal. We are going to open up for questions in just a moment, but I had one that reflects a lot of the feedback I'm getting from my office. Small business owners trying to integrate into a system that they really haven't had opportunity or desire, honestly, or availability to integrate with in the past. For a time, these earlier claims were going through the old model that assumes a W-2 earning situation. How are those claims that were filed prior to the change-up, how are they being addressed? What does a person have to do? And secondly, if you're dealing with an equity ownership situation, that an owner is paid through equity, how is that addressed in the system?
Sure. So if people had applied for benefits prior to the Federal CARES Act passing, and I guess to be very specific, there was the Federal CARES Act passage, and then the state of Michigan had to sign an agreement with the U.S. Department of Labor. So if people applied prior to the 28th, they would have gotten a denial. If you received a denial prior to that, there should be a note on your MyWham account requesting additional information. And so there'll be some directions in there. You should have also received an email from UIA talking about what additional information was needed. That's information that the Department of Labor has required us to attempt to get from folks and able to use the PUA system. So if you applied earlier and you were denied, check on your MyWham account. There should be a note there. You should have also received an email from UIA kind of talking to you about additional steps that we needed to help make sure you got those benefits. In terms of the program itself, in terms of equity, that is one is kind of there's not a one size fits all answer on that one. Depending on how you're set up, what percentage of ownership, whether you paid yourself a salary prior to this or whether you did a draw system. So it's many times, unfortunately, in unemployment, it's hard to give a one response answer to things like that. Obviously, we're seeing cases like this come up that are different because the system normally wouldn't be able to accommodate those folks. So I don't have a specific answer in terms of any issues around business ownership and equity issues and how that gets resolved. It really depends on the circumstances of the case. But we're happy to work with Representative Frederick, your office, in terms of getting some specific information from folks and working through our internal system to get people an answer on that.
Appreciate that. I just want to make clear what Todd had mentioned earlier for those on the call, that there is a commitment that all that are eligible will receive, and at the very minimum, the pandemic relief payment for the business owner, the self-employed business owner as well. So we're trying to navigate through those. It is very specific, but things like equity ownership and stuff like that, there may be additional verification requirements, but the goal is to accommodate those scenarios within the system as quickly as possible. So with that, I want to open it up for questions. Again, as Justin mentioned, *6 to unmute yourself to put forward a question to any of our guests this morning.
Hi. Are you there?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Bill Holt. I own a small business in Merrill, Michigan. I'm a Class C standalone corporation. I've never drawn a wage out of there. The only person that ever has is my wife. We both tried to get on the system to see what kind of benefits that we can be granted. We've applied for grants and loans. They've been turned down for the fact that we're too small or in a depressed area is the answer that I got. And I was wondering if there's anything that I can do to help bring anything into my business, because I have nothing else to put into it. I put all my life savings into this thing. Now, all of my permits, my licenses, insurance, everything is consistently due. We paid our employees a month, and that's all that we could do. We didn't get any of the paycheck protection. But now my wife and I are sitting here, and we have nothing. We're living off of our savings, and I want to know if there's anything that I can do to get some help to get on these sites in order to get a little bit of assistance. That's my question.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. All too familiar a story, sadly, in recent days. I'll open it up to any of our guests. At the very least, Bill, we're going to be getting your information too, and my office will be working with you after today. But any of our guests that may want to chime in about this particular scenario, please do.
Sure. Just in terms of the unemployment insurance system, if your wife has taken a W-2, and a minimum, she should have qualified under PUA, and so that would have been as part of the new CARES Act. And so, as Representative Frederick said, he'll be able to get in contact with you and get your information, and we can have we can dive into what happened there and get that resolved. And again, in terms of if you haven't yourself taken a W-2, there's just a little bit more work we have to do on our side to kind of figure that out. But we are kind of committed to ensuring everyone who can get benefits, and we know, especially for small business folks, the biggest challenge can be at this time. Most businesses don't have a large, fund they can depend on as they burn through things. We know expenses, including payroll and rent and insurance all kind of mount up. But we'll be able to work with Representative Frederick and work through some issues in terms of your unemployment insurance, and so that will give at least some help in terms of you and your wife and provide a little bit of relief there on that. On the business loan side, I'll let some of my colleagues talk, but and address that issue, in terms of that particular case.
Right.
This is Tyler with the MEDC. Just as he said, we're waiting on the next round of CARES funding. I think the sooner we get that in place, we'll have better answers to that question on the small business loans, and hopefully, plenty of funding. I know as Justin has mentioned, they've set some aside specifically for rural areas, and hoping that the next iteration of this package really helps address some of the payments here.
Yeah, Bill, this is Justin Horvath. Along with that, I would encourage, if you've not spoken to them yet, our counterpart up in Saginaw County, which is Saginaw Future, Joanne Crary, Steve Jonas. I'm not sure if you know them or have talked to them, but they are, I know, trying to work to support companies in the area, getting you plugged into programs and tools. Some of the funding programs, as Tyler mentioned, particularly through the federal government, they're getting reauthorized right now. They could be a benefit to you, but I would definitely coordinate with your economic development agency there in Saginaw County, Saginaw Future, so we can make that connection for you.
Okay, I have dealt with them twice now on grants and loans, and I was turned down for both.
Okay. So that may be for a local program or something they have in Saginaw County, but they should also be able to plug you in on other state or federal programs too. So.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Okay, Bill, and I'll say it now as we're about halfway through our time, and at the end, any of those listening right now that has a situation that they need follow-up on, my contact information is 517-373-0841 in Lansing. And I do welcome that call after this call too. My email is benfrederick@house.mi.gov. And we'll say that again at the end of the call as well. Are there others with questions? Again, *6 to unmute.
Could you give me the last four numbers of your phone number again, please?
Yeah, 517-373-0841.
Thank you.
Certainly, thank you. Again, any others with questions? Unmute yourself with *6, please.
Ben, this is just. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, hi, Justin. Hi, Ben. This is Nathan Henney. I was able to get on. The retirement board meeting ended. I just wanted to announce that I was here in case anyone from Owasso was here and had any questions about city-related stuff too. That was it. I appreciate you guys doing this.
Okay, that was our Owasso City Manager. Thank you, Nate.
How do I unmute myself?
This is Justin again. I have an unemployment question. So I've been hearing from some of my companies here that there is concern over the state benefit added with the federal benefit is such a large amount that it is creating a bit of a disincentive to work. And I know there's some companies on the call, actually, they can speak to that, that they're basically saying, we're not going to come back to work. We want to stay on unemployment. And I know there's legal ways to deal with that, but that is a concern. Along with that, I've read stories about, given the largesse of the payments going out, that there's concern about the long-time financial viability of the unemployment fund and being able to replenish those dollars, and how is that going to get paid for, obviously, in the long term. So could you comment on either of those items, please?
Sure. No, obviously, I think the benefit provided by the CARES Act, so the additional $600, is something that a lot of folks are talking about across the state. The way that the CARES Act was put forth, that is not necessary. That's something that we have to provide. That's provided in full. That's not something that gets prorated or merit-based. The way the system, works is that's an additional $600 flat out. And so we understand kind of, for a lot of employers, the impact that has. I should be very clear on this, that refusing to return to work because of the financial situation presented by the CARES Act is not an acceptable refusal of work under the governor's executive order or previous law. And so we know that people are working through that. We know it's a challenge. We reiterate to employers and to employees communication that refusal because of that is not an acceptable refusal to return to work. If under the executive order, if you are caring for a family member who is sick, or caring for you yourself have been exposed, or if you have issues regarding to child care because of closures related to the COVID outbreak, those would be other reasons. And so, but we're working on, we understand the challenges. We've heard that. The way the CARES Act is it doesn't leave us a whole lot of flexibility. Once you're eligible for benefits, that is something that's a part of that. And so, that's one of the reasons we've been talking about the work share program. that would allow people to come back on a reduced hour schedule and still be eligible for those other benefits. And so that's how, we're working through that. In terms of the trust fund, prior to the COVID outbreak, the trust fund was about $4.1 billion. That put us, for similar size states, kind of at the upper end in terms of financial stability. Obviously, it's a significant drain. The federal government is paying for all those folks who are eligible under the CARES Act, as well as the $600. So that is something that the federal government is paying the freight on. It's not something that's coming out of our trust fund. Obviously, the other thing that the federal government made available fairly soon in this COVID crisis was a 0% loan for UI trust funds. There were some trust funds around the country that weren't in as good a financial shape as ours. And so that may be a possibility should we get there. But, current projections are obviously it's going to have an impact, but we'll be in good shape. And again, the federal government is picking up the payment cost for this expanded eligibility under the CARES Act.
Okay, again, other individuals with questions on the line, press star 6 to unmute yourselves to put forward that question to our guest.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being on here. This is Teresa with Time for Flowers in downtown Corona. My question and concern, I guess, is that a lot of businesses, business owners, either live in rural areas with insufficient internet access or have no prior knowledge or exposure to applying online. I myself live almost in Byron, and I have very slow internet. I have been trying desperately to apply for grants and loans. And once I finally do get in, all the funds are allocated. So is there anything I can do to increase, my chance of actually getting a loan or a grant?
Before a reply here, I want to break in. If you've asked a question, if you could press star 6 to remute yourself. We're starting to get a little bit of interference in the background here, but if the guests could address that, please.
Teresa, this is, I'm sorry, you back?
Yeah, having a little bit of trouble. Sorry about that, which is kind of an ironic moment, given that we're talking about limitations in technology availability and rural broadband. That's the reality for a lot of us here. So, yeah, I don't know, Todd, if maybe you want to talk about. I mean, I know this is not an isolated situation with individuals having challenges with access right now in different parts of the state.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Obviously this is a very kind of unique circumstance in terms of, the unemployment insurance agency, normally through either through the UIA offices or at times, the Michigan Works staff can provide some assistance to folks as they work through this. But with the closure of those offices, it's really kind of put us in a position of really being reliant on the internet. I know that there had been discussion here in Michigan and also at the federal level about the need to put more of a focus on building out our broadband infrastructure into rural areas. And this is just kind of shown in a very unfortunate real-world way that the effects if we don't have that. Unfortunately, we're, the UIA agency in particular, the two ways we're able to take in claims are through the internet, which about 90% of the folks do, or 92% of the folks are able to do that. The other system is our phones, and as I'm sure people have heard from other folks, our phone system is frankly is overwhelmed. We've about increased. We've gone from about 130 folks on the phone prior to the COVID outbreak to closer to 600, and we're adding more people on every day. But with over a million claims in the last 4 weeks alone, obviously there's just a huge demand. So we're working through that as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, like I said, it is a perfect storm of a lot of things. I think it's going to put more of a focus moving forward and moving to address broadband in rural areas a little more quickly than maybe it had been, because I think this has just shown something that is, impacting, residents in Michigan, based on where they live, and getting some treatment in terms of their availability to interact. Again, it's just been exasperated by the fact that we're unable to have an in-person alternative for folks under the current crisis.
Yeah,
Yes,
Teresa,
sir.
in the immediate term, though, I'd like to make contact with you, and my office will help navigate this process with some of these challenges that you're facing with the technology and so on.
Thank you. I'm just afraid that I'm going to have to close my business for good because I have poor internet.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
my name is
Sorry?
Kathy, and I'm from Merrill. I have a question.
Hi.
I am a cancer patient. I have not worked at all this year, and last year I only earned $2,000. Now I am trying to get on the unemployment website, but of course I have been kicked off every single time. I also have slow internet, but I've also been told that I'm not going to qualify for anything because I've made no wage. Is that true?
So, under the Federal CARES Act, we're able to provide relief for folks who have, limited work history over the last 18 months. It sounds like you may, in the past year, may have not had something, but if you've had some kind of employment in the last 18 months, and if you're unable to, either seek employment or be employed currently because of COVID, you would also be eligible. And so, I know that the website, we continue to add capacity to it. DTMB, which is the IT department for the state of Michigan, has been working to build capacity on that as we see surges on that. We've asked people to go to a alphabetical by last name filing system to help us with the traffic flow on that. We have asked that folks who are A through L to use the system on. Let me just bring it up here. Sorry, I didn't.
Monday, Wednesday, and
Friday. Yeah, and then Saturday for everyone. And so we also encourage people to use it during off-peak hours, which is 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. And so, again, like I said, we're working to add additional resources, not only from Leo, but from other state departments to work through claims. And in terms of your particular case in your work history, the CARES Act really kind of expands a lot of that. And I would encourage you to keep trying to get on there and file. Once you're on there and eligible, your benefits will be backdated until the time that you started to be eligible for those benefits.
But that's just the thing. I don't have a specific date to be eligible because I have not worked at all. I've been battling cancer. So
Sure.
I have no income for this year. I only have $2,000 for last year because I was in the hospital most of the year last year.
Sure. So I think the eligibility, the expanded eligibility would have gone back to the beginning of the CARES Act, which would have been the 28th of March.
Okay.
Because that's when it really allowed us to address situations like yourself in terms of limited work history.
Yeah. So we need to get you in that review process so that we can see whether it's a mainline claim or the CARES expansion if you have an eligibility there. And again, my office would be happy to help facilitate that.
Okay, I will be calling you.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Again, press *6 to mute yourself. If you've already spoken, please press *6 again to remute.
Ben, this is Jody with SEDP. I actually have an unemployment question for Todd as well. You talked about the short work history. If somebody was laid off from a restaurant or anything else that had to be closed because of the executive order, is there a minimum they have to have earned prior to the closure in order to qualify for unemployment?
So under the regular system, people had to earn a minimum of $3,774 in 2 of the previous 5 quarters. And so under the regular system, that's the earnings threshold that people needed to meet. For people, as Representative Frederick has indicated, for folks who may not meet that threshold, either because of the time they were in the workforce or just the hourly amount and hours they were received at work, they fall underneath that. They would be eligible under the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. So that's the expanded benefit under the CARES Act. And so what will happen is someone will apply, they won't be eligible under the regular system, and then they'll be moved over to the PUA system to receive benefits.
So as long as they applied, even if they were denied initially because they were under the old program or the old system, they'll be reviewed and eligible now. Is that correct?
Yeah. So yep. They'll what they should do is there should be a note on their MyRAM account. The feds do ask us to get some additional information from folks, and as a part of that process of making them eligible, and so they should check their MyWAM account. There should be a note on there and some instructions in terms of additional information that they need to get in.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank you.
This is a very good question, because we've been encountering these questions from small business owners who are trying to help navigate their employees, going above and beyond, and they might be looking at a claim themselves, but also for their employees. You have to think about it in 2 different streams of eligibility. There's the classic system, which has that benefit attached to it, but also then the $600 weekly benefit. There's a lot of folks out there that are going to be eligible just for that $600 benefit. But in order to access it, they have to go through the initial stream. So very good question that brings up that there's 2 different pools of eligibility, but being denied eligibility for the first, which is the standard employment, does not disqualify from the second. And many are entering that process actually at the beginning, realizing they're probably only going to be eligible for the second process, but you still have to go through those steps. So really good, question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, press *6 to unmute if there's further questions. We're going until 10 o'clock, so we have time for a couple more.
Hey, Ben?
Yes.
This is Sue Cadillac from the Chamber of Commerce. I have a UIA question on behalf of some of our small businesses. I know for a while, as employees were laid off and they went into the unemployment system and classified themselves as a COVID-19 related layoff, the unemployment wages were not charged to the employer's account in UIA. And I believe that that non-chargeable account situation ends for some reason April 25th. This Friday sticks in my head. And my question on behalf of our small businesses is, if the governor reopens in stages and those businesses that are still shut down beyond next or this Friday, will those employees' unemployment insurance payments be then charged to the employer account, ultimately affecting their unemployment rate in the future? Or is there thought to extend that non-chargeable account so employers are not penalized?
Yeah,
Sure.
I'll answer that first. I'll answer that first as a legislator, and then I know Todd will have some insights too from the department standpoint. But as the legislature, across the aisle, there's a desire not to see harm come to the employers as a result of things that are outside of their control. So it's our desire to have it be that would continue as far as the present. But Todd, I'll let you speak to that too.
Sure. No, I think you addressed it very well, Representative. I think obviously, not penalizing, businesses for this situation in terms of affecting their rating and their tax rate when it comes to unemployment insurance was important. The governor through this process has worked on a number of different occasions to extend executive orders as we work through this. I can just say that people should keep posted, and Representative Frederick will obviously have information on this as well. But the governor has extended a number of executive orders. We know that in addition to this issue in terms of the chargeable or non-chargeable to businesses, in that same executive order is the expanded coverage in terms of COVID-related things. And so both of those under the executive order have a time frame that's coming up here very quickly. And I just know that the governor and the legal team have that on their radar, and I would just what I can say is people should look out for updates on that in the very near future.
Hey, we have time for about one more question. If somebody, again, *6 to unmute. Are there any further questions? *6 to unmute.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, this is from Black. We have a few businesses out here, and we applied for the first Saginaw Future grant loan, and we were rejected. Two of the businesses were actually passed on to a possible future loan. The other, we haven't heard anything back on, and I didn't know if there's a time frame where, or would I be getting another response, rejection or acceptance? I didn't know what the time frame is on getting through those possible grants.
Okay. Todd, you've been doing a lot of work here. I want to see if Chuck and Tyler can offer some insights as these things, may integrate into similar timetables for some of these other assistance programs. It's going to depend on which one in particular you're talking about. But Chuck, Tyler, do you want to chime in here?
This is Chuck. I can kind of take a stab at it. I think I would recommend you, if you submitted something to your local Saginaw Futures office, I'd probably try reaching back out to them. Again, I know because of the changing nature of the programs and because there's kind of like so many coming out, I think some local economic development offices are keeping lists so that they can try to get information out to folks. But I think quite honestly, there's just so much that it's kind of worth your while to kind of keep following up with them and just kind of keep checking the websites for additional resources. And then also, of course, participating in events like this where you can kind of get up-to-date information.
Yeah, and I want to be in touch with you too, and I'll put my information out in just a few minutes here. But just to see that the full landscape of possibilities is available to you, and we get some expectation on timeline for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Okay, we do have time for one more quick question if there's anyone else. Press *6 to unmute.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, it's
Yes.
DeLynn Wenzel, and I have a
Yes.
small business in Merrill, and it's embroidery. So by the time everyone gets a chance to come out of their homes and their businesses go back, we're a business that's more of a want than a need. So we do a lot of schools, colleges, it's embroidery, obviously, and businesses. So we're going to probably be one of those last businesses that will, kind of start getting people coming in. When this unemployment, how will that affect, it's not that we don't want to go back to work. We can't just go back to work and stand there for 8 hours a day looking out the window. How does unemployment, when you have to reapply for other jobs, because they probably think you're not working, how is that all is that going to come to an end, or do they make a decision when this $600 or how this all works or stops?
Yeah. That's actually a great question, multifaceted question, really. Very briefly, I know, Todd, you might want to chime in a little bit on the unemployment side, but also the SEDP side, the MEDC side, as it relates to maybe any initial thoughts on, income loss for very specific things like event-based retail, which are not the same type of situation. It has ongoing drag, if you will, because of consumer behavior, consumer psychology, and canceled events. And wondering if there's any initial thoughts there, combined with whatever Todd's insights might be on the unemployment side.
Sure. Well, just a couple of things. So the additional $600 federal benefit, currently that is available through July 31st. People have already started to begin asking if the reopening is slower than we think. What will happen to that? I can just tell you that we're working very hard with our federal partners, and I know Representative Frederick is working with his colleagues at the federal level too, in terms of making sure we're doing everything we can in terms of working through the recovery and the reopening. We know that it's not going to be like turning on a light switch. That there are going to be some businesses that are going to take longer to come back online just because of consumer confidence, like the representative has indicated. I think we're committed to providing as much relief as we can for people as long as we can through this process. But currently, that federal benefit is allowable through July 31st. And clearly, there are going to be businesses that are going to be affected by COVID, which is an appropriate reason to be on unemployment insurance benefits, and for a while still.
Okay, I'll get some additional information to you as well on that question, as far as maybe some of the thoughts on the economic development side related to your business model. With that, we're at the conclusion of the call, but I want to offer again my contact information, not only for any further follow-up questions, but also if you'd like a copy of the audio of this call for additional reference. My contact information in Lansing is again Representative Ben Frederick. That's 517-373-0841. 517-373-0841. The email address is benfrederick@house.mi.gov, and Frederick is spelled Frederick. benfrederick@house.mi.gov. I also do a lot of work through my Facebook page, which is just looking up the name Ben Frederick in the Owasso area. I've received a lot of actual unemployment requests and things like that through Facebook Messenger. So I welcome your contact there as well. And with that, I want to thank all three of our guests for their time and expertise. and Justin Horvath of the Shiawassee Economic Development Partnership for making this call available to us. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everybody, for joining today.